What's up, guys? Happy Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Good evening to those of you who are in a similar time zone. Wherever you're tuning in and watching, I'm excited to talk about how to find a winning franchise that makes money. It's an important topic. There's a lot of franchises out there. And the thing that I hate the most, that pains me the most, is when I get emails and messages from people that they bought the wrong franchise, or that they got involved in a franchise that they regretted because there's just so many good options out there. So I'm excited to hop in tonight. As we're getting started, I'd love for you to interact. I love to make this as interactive as possible because it's a little bit boring for me if I'm just talking straight to a camera. So just let me know. Drop a comment below and let me know what city and state. Like, where are you from? Where are you tuning in from? That would be awesome. For those of you who are watching the replay, because I know that we'll get most of the views here on the replay, let me know that you're watching the replay, and let me know where you're watching from. And I'll be coming in and responding to all of the comments and saying hello. So whether live or not. Hey, Roberta, welcome. My pleasure. I'm excited to do this. So, all right. So tonight we're going to talk about finding a winning franchise that makes money, and it is probably my favorite topic, right? And so we're gonna dive into it. South Africa, that's crazy, Roberta. That's pretty cool. I knew that we had an international crowd. Didn't know how international it was. Right before we dive into this, right, I want to show you something. We actually just redid our website recently. I don't know if you guys have seen it, um, but we recently redid it, and really to be authentic to what our focus is, which is my mission is to help people own a money making franchise. Believe it or not, there are franchises out there that don't make money, and so that's our process. That's our commitment. That's our mission. Is we want to help you create a full time income owning a franchise that you love, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. How do you own a successful business that you are proud of, right? So let's just dive in. Let's just dive in. Remember to drop where you're tuning in from. So here's the problem right now is that there are if you didn't know, with just in the United States alone, we have people tuning in from South Africa. So I don't even know what the number is internationally, but just in the United States alone, there are over 4,000 franchises. So what happens is that the conversations that we have, or what the YouTube comments that I get, or the emails that I get from people is, I have no idea what franchise I should buy. I don't know what are the good ones. I don't know what are the ones that are actually doing well. Is the franchisor just selling me a bill of goods? And it becomes quite overwhelming to try to find the right franchise online, especially when there's a lot of very limited information publicly. So most people, they just spin their wheels, Googling around, searching the top franchise list, and it's a terrible way to find a franchise. Hello, Maria from San Diego. um, so it's a really bad way to try to find a franchise. And so what happens is, like, what you want to avoid is buying the wrong franchise, right? That's the biggest thing you want to avoid. And if you knew that you could find the right franchise from the beginning, then you would probably shorten your time frame of how long you decided. Like, if you knew failure wasn't an option, right? If you knew that you would be successful, like, you would make the decision today, right? If you knew you were going to be successful in a specific franchise. So the idea is to eliminate as much of the guesswork as possible. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to dive into it. And so there's something called opportunity cost, right? Which is the cost of doing nothing and the cost of waiting. And so right now, if you know that, hey, I think overall I want to buy a franchise because I know that I want to be an entrepreneur. I really want to have my own business. The idea of starting something from scratch, I don't really want to do it. Or maybe I've tried it before. So I like the idea of a proven blueprint and model. If you overall like pretty much know that that's the path that you want to take, every day you wait is actually costing you. It's actually costing you money. It's it's delaying you getting to your outcome. And that's the way that you have to think of it in order to get yourself to take action, because most people delay it. Or they go, I've been thinking about owning a business or owning a franchise for 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. My biggest regret, one of my biggest regrets was not doing it sooner. We signed our first franchise agreement in 2015. It was not doing it sooner. So, how do you find the right franchise with confidence? Let's dive in. Well, number one is you need to use a proven process, right? And so here's the analogy and the example. Oh, and by the way, before I explain that, so the way that I learned this was when my wife and I signed our first franchise agreement in 2015. Guess what we did not do? We did not use a proven process. I pretty much had a very flawed way of thinking of how to find the right franchise for me. I didn't know there were over 4,000 franchises. I didn't know which ones made money. I didn't know all of the different industries that franchises were in. Here was my thought process. We got to do something we really enjoy because I'm already busy and we really like making juices and smoothies at home. So seems like that could be a good idea. Now, I did have some elements of this proven process, but overall, that was just my mindset. There was no proven process to buying the right franchise. So here's what happened, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what happened. I know we have more folks tuning in, so drop me a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from as you're tuning in live, like what city, state. We already got San Diego, South Africa. Pretty cool. So here's what happened. We spent $330,000 to get a franchise open. Okay, was the franchise successful? Yes. We made money. We eventually sold that location, and that location performed well for us. But we invested $330,000 to get that franchise open, right? And so what I learned later on was that there were franchises that I could have put up that same $330,000 to get into, where I could have made 2, 3, 4 times the amount of profit that I was making in what I did wind up choosing. And the reason why I missed out on making that extra 2, 3, 4 times the profit was because I did not follow a proven process. So as we started owning our franchises and as I started learning more and more about franchising, talking to franchise owners, learning how you go about selecting the process, that's how I created some of the methodology that we're going to go over tonight. I need a cough. 1 second. My goodness. All right. So, as an example, when you go to buy a house, and most of us here either live in a house, own a house, maybe an apartment, condo, whatever it is. But when you go buy a house, like you don't go wandering randomly down the streets. You're like, all right, we want to go buy a house, and so we're going to go walk down the road, just knocking on doors, asking if people's houses are available, or just looking for sale signs, right? No, the proven process when buying a house is you would either first you identify your criteria, right? You identify what is your criteria for buying a house. Hey, do we want a 3-bedroom? Do we want 4 bedrooms? How many bathrooms do we want? Do we want something that doesn't have a backyard so we don't have to take care of it? Or do we want a backyard because we have kids? What sort of neighborhood do we want to be in? Do we want a pool, etc.? Right? Like obvious stuff. You start thinking of the criteria. And with that criteria in mind, when you go searching on Zillow, and then, or when you work with your realtor, right? Who did you guys know that apparently a realtor and real estate agents are like two different things? Realtors, a trademark term. Oh, what's that show? Is it Modern Family? Whatever that show is, where there's a whole segment on realtor versus real estate agent. Oh, I just thought about that. It's freaking hilarious. You'll have to look up that clip. It's really funny. It's a thing. Anyways, so but part of the proven process is working with a professional who can help you navigate the process and narrow down your search. Now, for me, I like going on Zillow and the sites, and I like looking on my own. I'm a control freak, but we still work with a realtor. But you're not. The idea is you're once you start establishing your criteria, and again, this is all relating to franchising. I'm going to tie this in on how this relates to you finding the right franchise and how you find a winning franchise. But you need the context is important, right? So once you set your criteria, what happens is you go from let's say 1,000 houses in, let's say, a 5 mile radius, whatever it is, to all of a sudden there's, 20 houses for sale in your area that meet your specific criteria. Makes the process much less overwhelming. And so what I find is when we talk, we over the last year, last couple of years, I've personally spoken to over 1,000 franchise buyers personally, right? Um, and so what I've learned is that people don't have a criteria. When I ask them, "Hey, what's your what's your criteria on buying a franchise?" And they give me the most vague answers that I've ever heard of in my life. So it's like, well, no wonder you've been searching for a year, 2 years, not able to find the right franchise. So the first thing you need to do is to establish your criteria. That's step number one. You need to get as much clarity as possible on what it is that you want, right? And real quick, shameless plug for any of you that you want to just shortcut this process, right? Um, and you just want to work with a professional from the beginning because you're busy and you know the value in that, what you can do is you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. When you do that, I was going to see if we had like a clickable link. I don't think we do that. We just have the banner. When you do that, you will be able to, I'm going to drop it in there. When you do that, you'll be able to schedule a free call with someone on our team. Like there's no charge, and we can check on franchises that are available in your area based on a specific criteria. So we can kind of help you with that process overall, so that you don't have to struggle through all that. But if you want to like do it on your own and just kind of, I'm going to walk you through it right now. It's not going to cost you anything. It's completely free. So what I'd love actually is if you can hit the like button here. That would be really awesome. Hit the like button, helps show the video to more and more people. But all right, so your criteria. So what are things to get criteria to establish criteria for when looking for a franchise? Industries, right? What are specific industries that you are okay with looking at? Here's the easiest way to start narrowing down your criteria. What is a definite no? Like what's a no, I'm definitely not doing that. 100% not happening. That's the easiest way to start narrowing it down, right? So what we do with our clients is we provide an industry rating spreadsheet. So it's got a whole list of different industries. And what we do is we have you rate them on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being no, 5 being yes. Pretty simple math. And so through that, we're able to help go, okay, now we have a pretty good sense of like what you want to stay away from, what not. That's part of the criteria. Another part of the criteria is geographic area. So as an example, I live in Orlando, Florida. And part of my criteria would be I don't want to buy a franchise that is further than 25, 30 minutes away, which means that there are specific zip codes that I would want to open my franchise in. And so for you, what geographic area, unless you want to be commuting, right? Do you want to, when you buy your business or franchise, do you want to be commuting an hour away? No. So you're going to have a specific geographic area. What is that area? Because here's the thing, what happens is although there are a lot of great franchises out there, I'd say that 80% of them are crap. So there are 4,000 franchises, 80% of them are not good. 20% of them are good. And when I say good, have a track record of happy and profitable franchisees. That's what I define as good. So what happens is you may go looking online and get excited about a franchise, but then you don't know if it's even available in your specific geographic area. So going back to the analogy we were talking about before, okay, great. There's a 4-bedroom house with 4 baths and a pool that you absolutely love, and it's within your price point. but it's 2 hours away, right? And your kids go to a certain school, then you're like, "Okay, that's great and all, but we're not gonna move 2 hours away." Same thing with the franchise. You gotta make sure that it's available in your geographic area. One of the easiest ways to do that is to actually, go through our team and go to franchiseempire.com/check territory, because then we can, with the click of a button, we can check the territory at franchisors based on your behalf. If you try to do it, you gotta submit something on the franchisor's website, you gotta wait for them to call you, then they're gonna put you through the rigmarole of having to, like, hop on a couple of different calls just to then see what territories are available. We can literally check 15, 20, 30, 40 franchises at a time. It's super easy. So that's part of what you want to get clear in terms of your criteria. You want to get clear on, hey, do I want something with a storefront or not? Or do I want something that's service based? Right? It takes a lot longer to get something open that is a retail location. Once you sign your franchise agreement, if you do something that has a physical storefront, you're probably not going to be open for a year. So we have some people that come in and work with us, and they're saying, "Hey, I want to get my business open right away. I want it within 3 months. I want to be ready to rock and roll and launched." Great. So now that we know that that's a part of your criteria, that automatically eliminates anything with a storefront, because you need to sign your franchise agreement. Then I'm not going to walk through the whole process, but it takes a year. Another time I can walk through it. I'm very detailed. I like details. You need to determine what's another criteria: skilled labor or unskilled labor. There are pros and cons to both. Skilled labor may mean that you're working with more responsible people, right? That maybe have degrees, that have training, certifications. And so they're a different caliber. Maybe they're more reliable, but they may be harder to find. When I was in the food business, that you're talking about unskilled labor, right? Anyone can push a button, anyone can make a smoothie, anyone, overall can do pretty basic tasks. But what happens is pretty much unreliable, high turnover, etc. So you got to figure out, what type of people do I want to be working with? What type of employees do I want in the business? That's an important criteria that most people don't think about. So again, the average person, they're just searching on the internet, what franchises make the most money? Yeah, that's great and all. There are a bunch of franchises that make a lot of money, but do they meet your criteria? Right? And making money could be one of your criteria. Oh, we have I made something of 5 low-cost franchises that, make over $1,000,000 backed by data. We looked up the FDD. So we've been doing all sorts of research. So our team has been just diving in and researching franchises, looking through FDDs, franchise disclosure documents, to see how much money that the franchisees make on average. And we've been putting together a list of the top franchises that make the most money and starting to categorize them in different buckets. It's pretty cool. It's incredible. It makes the process for our clients a lot more simple, just because there's no guesswork. So I got to see if I can find the link before. If you want it, drop a comment and let me know in the comments if you want that, and I'll have to find the link, and then I'll come back in, me or someone on my team, and we'll drop you that link so that you can get access to that. Another criteria could be, hey, I only want a business that's open Monday through Friday. As an example, our franchise opened 364 days a year. That was not a criteria point that I thought about. 363 days a year. The only days we closed were Christmas and Thanksgiving. So what do you want? What's important to you? Do you want a business? Do you care if the business is open 7 days a week or only Monday through Friday? Because there are a bunch of franchises that have traditional business hours, and generally speaking, the business is only open Monday through Friday, and you're not open on the weekends. That's an important criteria point, right? Uh, your price range and your budget, right? What I find is that most people don't understand the way the whole financing of franchise works. Let me break it down super easy for you. As an example, if the FDD says that it costs between $250,000 to $350,000 to get the franchise open, I would, if I were you, I would estimate on the higher end, right? Or you add those two up and estimate in the middle, but just to be safe, estimate in the higher end. So let's go with 350,000 is what you think it's going to cost to get up and running. Well, what's going to happen is most people are going to finance their franchise with an SBA loan, which are typically pretty easy to get, assuming you're in a decent financial position. And you're going to have to put 20% down for for the franchise to get the SBA loan, which means you're going to have to come up with 70 grand and you'll be able to finance the other 280. A bunch of different ways people do that. I have videos on franchise funding, stuff like that. So again, if you need to figure out how do you fund the franchise and you want one of the videos where I break that down more, comment below. Let me know. Someone from me or my team will drop a link to that specific training. Then last but not least, in terms of your criteria, and this is just the beginning part of it, then we're going to talk about the profitable franchise formula, which is important in finding winning franchises that make money, is how much money do you want to make, right? What is your ultimate outcome? Because here's the reality. If you say, well, here's what I hear that happens with individuals. They go, okay, I want to make 150 grand in profit in my franchise. I'm like, okay, cool. I understand that. You want to make $150,000 in profit. That makes sense. Are there franchisees that do that? Of course. So, but then it's like, okay, well, I'm looking at this franchise in, let's say, the food space, or this franchise in the retail space. And okay, well, let's dive into the numbers. Turns out that the average unit sales in that franchise is only 400 grand. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you this. In any sort of retail storefront or franchise that has a physical location, if it's not averaging at least $600,000 in sales, it is very difficult to make money. Very difficult, because there's the fixed cost of the rents, and rents are expensive. And so, most business owners are targeting somewhere between a 10 to 30% profit margin. On average, I think most business owners are going to be pleased with a 20% profit margin, right? I'm talking in generalities here. This is not any sort of income claim about any sort of specific franchise, just generalities. That's what most business owners will be pleased with, somewhere around that number. But that's not including your debt service, meaning if you have a loan, you still have to make your loan payments. And so I feel like I'm getting a little bit off track here, but basically, if you're trying to make 150 grand in profit and you're looking at a retail franchise where you're probably, after your loan, only going to take home like 30 or 40 grand based on the average sales, you would, in theory, need to own 3 or 4 of those in order to meet your objective of making the profit that you want to make. Think about that. So would you rather be stubborn and go, no, but I really love it, and I love this brand, and I love them as a customer, and I feel so happy when I go there? I don't care. Do you want to make money, or do you want to be in a business that you love, that you're passionate about? Like, prioritize making money and your goal first. We're going to talk about the fact that you do need to have some sort of connection to the business. But what happens is I see people, they have their goals do not match their strategy, right? Their goals do not match their strategy. So you need to align those things. Easiest way to do that, if you're just joining us, is that you can hit up our team and schedule a free call. Oh my goodness. How did that's a different looking one. I think I clicked the wrong one. Oh, I highlighted the comment. Here we go. Is that you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. There should be a link in the comment somewhere, and you can set up a free call with our team, and we will see what franchises are available in your area for free. There's no cost to just check and see what's available, if it meets your criteria, etc. And actually, is there a running banner thing that I could drop at the bottom? I forget how that goes. The ticker. I got to get used to how to use this thing again. That's all right. Yeah. All right. So let's dive into the profitable franchise formula, right? So there's 4 components to it. So number one is belief. You need to have belief in the business that you're pursuing. Doesn't mean that you have to be passionate about it. I hate when people are like, I want to be in a business that I'm passionate about. Well, guess what? What's more important to you, passion or profits? Would you rather be passionate and not make any money, or would you rather make profits in a business that you're not passionate about? Passion is fleeting. What you're passionate about today can change a year from now. Think about it. So you don't want to chase something you're passionate about. What you want to do, and passions are weak. It's a surface emotion, in my opinion, right? You want something that you believe in, that you have conviction in, that you have a connection with. Meaning, you may not be passionate about taking care of kids, but you might pursue a daycare franchise because you have young kids and you have a strong belief of education and kids getting the right education, and maybe you had a bad experience at a daycare where it wasn't a great experience and something happened. So you have this deep conviction that you would want to provide a great service in your community. So not something that you're passionate about, but you would do that business because you have a belief in it, right? That's an example. Number two is it needs to match your skill sets. If you're highly introverted and you're terrified of talking to people or like potentially making a sales call, don't go into like a B2B business where you have to be very sales oriented. It's could you make it happen? Sure. But it would require you getting out of your comfort zone a significant amount. Maybe you're that type of person who can do that, but what I found is most people aren't. Number three of the profitable franchise formula is demand. That franchise, you need to validate that it has demand in your market, right? Look, my first franchise location, there were no competitors within a 5-mile radius. We got profitable in the second month and we just crushed it from the beginning, right? Part of that was because there was a lot of demand. There was no other competitors within 5 miles. Our second location, there were 4 competitors within a 1-mile radius. That store was a pain in the butt. We had to do so much to drive sales into that store. And so there is a reality to demand. There is 100% a reality to that. Okay. The fourth is profit potential. You got to validate, guys, in order to find a winning franchise that makes money. You need to make sure that there are actually franchisees currently performing and making the amount of money in that franchise that you would want to make. I know it sounds silly. If you don't ask the specific questions or know how to navigate franchisee validation, then you're winging it. And that could cost you, that could be devastating. Signing a 10-year franchise agreement or a lease, or just because you got excited about something and you didn't validate it properly. So you want to make sure you're validating the profit potential, right? So one thing to know is that you're going to gain clarity as you progress, right? So what happens is, let's say you're looking for a house, right? This has happened to my wife and I before. Is as you go looking at houses, you start to gain more and more clarity. You're like, oh, okay, I saw houses that had island kitchens. Now we want to make sure that we want a house that has an island in the kitchen, right? Or we saw houses that had barn doors, so we want that. So as you start to look and talk to franchises, you're going to gain more and more clarity about what it is that you want specifically. And so the question from here is, like, are you going to do this alone by yourself? So like you have really two options. You can continue to scour the internet and waste hours of your time, look on all these websites, right? Trying to figure out what are the best franchises, what are the franchises that make money. And there's no such thing as the best franchise, by the way. It's really what are the franchises that are best for you and that makes sense based on your goals. But you can do it alone. You can skim the websites. You'll probably have an uphill battle. It'll take you longer. You'll likely be a lot more emotional in your decision-making process, which will impact the way you make decisions. And probably put you at risk, which is just a reality about it. And you may stop and start, and it'll take you a couple of years because you don't have accountability, you don't have structure, and life just gets in the way, right? Life will smack you in the face. especially if you have young kids. I know what it's like. We got a 2 and a 5-year-old. I have an accountability coach. I got my team that holds me accountable. My wife. It's easy to we get hit up from people where they say, "Hey, I've been looking at franchises for a year, 2 years, on and off." It's like, my goodness, that sounds terrible. Um, the second way to go about this is you can reach out to us, and we can see if we can help you. We used to have one way in which we help people. Now we have a few different ways. So we have our full zero to profitable franchise system, which provides you with a community, education, a course. You get to hop on weekly calls with me. Uh, it's really this comprehensive system and program. We have some people that go, "Hey, you know what, Tarek? We don't want all that. We just want someone to help us, like, match make and find the franchise in a traditional franchise broker consultant capacity. That's all we want." And it's like, you know what? That's cool. We used to not work with people in that capacity, and we realized that um, we were missing the opportunity to help more people. And our mission is to help you own a money making franchise. And so we become more flexible in that manner. But we have a proven process. We've helped over 200 people in the last couple of years in the franchise buying process. And the way that works, we have you take a behavioral assessment so you can understand your skill sets. How are you wired? There's a specific way that you're wired. That is, excuse me. There is a specific way that you are wired that some franchises, some businesses, you're going to be put in a better position to succeed. There's just frankly going to be franchises that are a terrible fit for you and your personality. You need to know that. So we have a special assessment that we pay for, um, that you get to take. So it helps to narrow your process down. So we have you do a net worth spreadsheet. So work with you on your finances and what you can afford, what that budget is. We help you understand narrowing down different industries, and then just researching what brands are even available in your market and area, as well as the due diligence process. So, um, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. If you would like some assistance or just to kind of check out um, what's available in your area, you can go to franchiseempire.com/, check territory. And again, you can set up you'll fill it out. We'll be able to look it up for you. You can set up a free 15-minute call to see what's available. If you're still kind of in the browsing, oh, this one's a ticker. That's what I was trying to figure out before. Okay. Oh, it says ticker. No crap. Now I figured it out. Now I know for next time. We're gonna do this again next week, by the way. I'm gonna start doing this every Thursday at 5 o'clock and do a different one. But if you just want to stay in touch and kind of see what are some different franchises every week, we put out a newsletter with two franchises: a resale, so a franchise for sale that's already making money, as well as a franchise of the week. So a franchise that our team and I have looked at. We show you what are the startup costs, how many franchisees on there, how much money is that franchise making on average. It's pretty cool. It's pretty insightful. You may have seen it before, but you can go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter, and you can sign up for free. And every Sunday morning, we send you that newsletter. And then on Mondays at 1 p.m. Eastern time, Kevin and I, who's one of the franchise brokers on our team, works with our clients. We actually do a live, which maybe you've seen, and we walk through and explain and talk through the newsletter and the franchises that we're talking about. So two different ways that we can help support you in the process. If you've enjoyed this, gotten value, give me a thumbs up. If you're on YouTube, like, hit the like button. And again, just drop me a comment with any questions or if any of the resources that I mentioned earlier on, and stay in touch every Thursday until we don't do it. Look forward to seeing y'all soon. Later.